Well, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry leaves Sunday for Europe and the Middle East, his first trip abroad as America's top diplomat. And as VOA State Department correspondent Scott Stearns reports, conflict in Syria tops Mr. Kerry's agenda.
Allahu Akbar.
With Syria's civil war rocking the Damascus suburbs, Secretary Kerry's schedule in Europe and the Middle East includes meetings with opponents of embattled President Bashar al-Assad. State Department spokeswoman Victoria Nuland.
He's characterizing this first trip more broadly as a listening tour, but I think he'll look forward to hearing from the Syrian opposition coalition what more they think we can do, and also to hear from counterparts who are deeply involved in supporting the opposition.
Those European counterparts are extending their arms embargo while providing more non-lethal support for civilians. British Foreign Secretary William Hague.
It will allow us now to supply a greater range of equipment to help to protect civilian life in Syria. It will also enable us to give assistance and advice that we've been restricted in giving before.
Secretary Kerry is no stranger to Syria. He recalled during his confirmation hearing how President Assad once asked for his help.
He wanted to try to find some way to reach out to the West and see if there was some kind of an accommodation. History caught up to us. That never happened, and it's now moot because he has made a set of judgments that are inexcusable.
Longtime Assad ally Russia is now pushing for talks with the opposition. Kerry is scheduled to meet in Berlin with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, who says the priority in Syria is dialogue.
Сейчас, как я понимаю, ситуация меняется.
The situation is changing, and it is very important that the readiness of the Syrian opposition for dialogue is met by a confirmation from the government that they are also ready.
Подтверждением правительства о том, что и они готовы к диалогу.
Cato Institute analyst Malou Innocent says Russia's apparent shift is bad news for President Assad.
They've sort of recognized that the rebel movements might emerge victorious at the end of this. I think that's a stunning about-face from the Russians.
Johns Hopkins University professor Ruth Wedgwood says the pace of the war shows President Assad can no longer keep Syria together.
It is such a delicate balance. It's a bouillabaisse of nationalities, which was always the trump card of Assad and the Alawites, that they were the one seemingly honest at the time, now dishonest broker who could keep the stew from boiling over.
Secretary Kerry will meet with foreign ministers in London, Paris, Berlin, Riyadh, Ankara, Cairo, Abu Dhabi, and Doha, as well as with Syrian opposition leaders in Rome. Scott Stearns, VOA News at the State Department.
And Scott Stearns joins us now to give us more details about Secretary Kerry's trip. Welcome, Scott. Let's start with what the significance is of the U.S. Secretary of State's first trip abroad and where he goes.
Well, it is perhaps significant that Secretary Kerry is choosing to go to Europe on his first trip. If you'll recall, Secretary Hillary Clinton went to Asia on her first trip as part of reflecting the Obama administration's so-called Asia pivot. Secretary Kerry, given his personal history, he's a French speaker, he lived in Berlin as a boy, he is perhaps more interested in Europe and European affairs than Secretary Clinton or President Obama, for that instance. But of course, it comes at a time of great significance and importance between the United States and European allies, both on Syria and on Mali.
And now, talking about Mali, what is he likely to discuss with the French when he goes to Paris?
Secretary Kerry will meet both with President Hollande and with French Foreign Minister Fabius. They'll be talking about the conduct of the French military campaign in the north, the latest fighting in Gao, the cooperative intelligence sharing that's going on between U.S. and French forces in the region. As you know, President Obama has sent another 40 U.S. troops to Niger. That's largely to provide security for the drone program that's going on there. But also, you know, the French want to get out of Mali and say that they will leave once this ECOWAS FISMA force is operational. So I imagine that the French would like to hear from Secretary Kerry what can the United States do to help these African countries get their troops to Mali, get them up to pace so that they can take the lead in the operation and the French troops can pull back.
Okay, and we know the position of the U.S. in Mali. Is Secretary Kerry likely to take any kind of different approach to this than, say, what the previous Secretary of State did?
I don't think so. And the big difference to remember between Secretary Clinton and Secretary Kerry is President Obama. He's still the president. He still sets foreign policy for the United States. So the sense of the importance of Mali in confronting terrorism across the Sahel, in helping out the French, but in keeping U.S. troops as far away from the fighting as possible.
Yes. And just quickly, I wanted to ask, does the Secretary of State, and I don't know how much you may know about this, actually determine where they're going, or also it could be driven by what is considered as the most important foreign affairs challenge or issue of the moment?
I think that Secretary Kerry was free to choose Europe as his first trip. Where you go, the order that you go, who you meet, obviously that is, dependent on what's going on. And perhaps the most important meeting he'll have is with Foreign Minister Lavrov in Berlin.
Mm-hmm. Thanks a lot, Scott.
Sure.
Well, Scott Stearns is VOA State Department correspondent, and he joined us here on In Focus. Thank you.